In an assembly at the end of the school year, they told me that I had received the scholarship. So I was like, oh my God, I was very happy. And
Yes.
it felt like college was much closer than I thought it was.
Cely, how did ScholarMatch help you when selecting schools to apply for?
So the first step was to meet my coach. And that's when I met Marisela. First-gen college students out there have someone like ScholarMatch because they're an amazing program, and I don't think I could have graduated without ScholarMatch, honestly.
What advice would you have for students to be successful that day one on campus?
I would definitely look into every resource you can possibly find on campus.
Are you a first-generation college student looking for actionable advice on how to apply and graduate college? Or maybe you're still in the dreaming of college stage and not sure of your first step to make college a reality? Then this is the episode for you. Today, we're going to introduce you to ScholarMatch, an amazing organization helping make college possible for first-generation college students through free programs. ScholarMatch supports underserved youth from high school all the way to college graduation with an 85% college graduation success rate within 6 years. Here to answer your college questions and give practical advice on the process is Cely Pablo, a first-generation college graduate and ScholarMatch alum, and Shay Jones, who was Cely's ScholarMatch mentor. New to my channel? Hi, I'm Jerica, and I love helping first and second-generation college students succeed in college. So grab your coffee or your tea, and I'll see you on the other side. Shay and Cely, welcome to the show. I feel like I want to start with you, Shay, because you are a current college advisor at ScholarMatch. So can you tell our listeners who you are, a little bit more about ScholarMatch, and what drew you to the program, and then how you first met Cely?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on, Jerica. I'm really excited to be here. Yeah, so starting off, I am Shay Jones. I use they, them pronouns. I originally grew up in the Midwest, but I've been living on the West Coast for about a decade now. In undergrad, I studied psychology and writing, and then I originally started working with first-gen students in undergrad with the TRIO program. And then after that, if I wasn't getting my master's in social work, I've been working with students ever since, and I've been working with ScholarMatch for almost 3 years now. And then, yeah, to tell you a little bit about what ScholarMatch is, we're a nonprofit based out of San Francisco. We serve first-generation students in California and also recently starting nationwide, thanks to partnerships with foundations and other community-based organizations. And we really pride ourselves on guiding students every step of the way from when they're in high school, doing the college applications, to graduation and kind of launching their careers as well. Yeah, and so for the last ScholarMatch has been around for 15 years, and we've served more than 6,700 students, and we have over 1,500 volunteers over that time, and we've dispersed more than 7.7 million in flexible ScholarMatch funding to students. So really what drew me in to working with ScholarMatch was the one-on-one relationships that I would get to build with students, and I think that's really where like the power of ScholarMatch is those relationships where when students have questions, they have someone that they can go ask. And if I don't know the answer, I work really hard to try to find it out or work with them to find that. And then I also really love the fact that we not only give scholarships, but we support them for up to 7 years in that process as well. So yeah, as a college advisor, I help students once they've graduated from high school. That's my role. I met Cely in summer of 2022, right after I started at ScholarMatch. And so I worked with her last 2 years of college.
Man, Shay, that is like a lot. So much information, but it makes me super happy to hear about like the ScholarMatch effect. That's what I'm going to call it, right? Because you guys are serving all of these students. And what I also liked hearing is that it's nationwide. Like you guys are starting to branch off into nationwide, because I'm here all the way over on the East Coast. And I'm like, okay, I want some of our students to be able to participate in ScholarMatch. And so also that is why I'm super glad to have Cely with us today, who is a ScholarMatch alum. Because sometimes, you know, when we're interviewing, it's just going to talk to the person that's overseeing the program, but to actually have someone that's benefited from the program is amazing. So Cely, welcome. Can you walk our listeners through like the moment you realized you wanted to go to college as a first-generation college student and how ScholarMatch really helped you along on your college journey?
First of all, thank you so much for having me here today. I'm Cely, and I'm originally from Oakland, California. My parents live in San Francisco, but now I live in San Diego. I attended SDSU, and I just graduated last year in May. And to answer your question, the first time I realized I wanted to go to college was when everyone else around me was stressing out about SATs, ACTs, and I was like, oh, maybe I should be worrying about this too. So then I went to my college room and I was like, I was trying to figure out, okay, what does this mean? Why is this important? And how can this help me get to college? So then I started there. I started doing SAT preps. I started learning more about colleges. I did join a program in that college room. It was called JCYC Upward Bound. And they also took us to tours. And I toured many schools in Southern California, and I was like, oh, like, I'm really motivated. Like, I like this. I can see myself being a college student. But the problem was I didn't want to put a financial burden on my parents because it's very expensive. Everyone was like, yeah, we had to take out loans or, trying to find a way to pay for this. And I wasn't sure how I could do that. And that's when ScholarMatch came into my life as well.
Okay, so you were just like in the college room, you went and did the college tours. And where did you learn about like the ScholarMatch and like the funding and like receiving that funding? Where did you learn all about that part?
So the college room also had a board where they had a bunch of scholarship flyers hung up there. Okay. And that's how I learned about it. I had a college advisor in there as well. And they're like, you should apply for this. And I was like, okay, I'll apply. It didn't hurt to apply. And I did it. And then I applied to ScholarMatch. And in an assembly at the end of the school year, they told me that I had received the scholarship. So I was like, oh my God. I was very happy. And it felt like college was much closer than I thought it was. So it felt like I could really do it now.
Yeah, man. Like, were you like, they brought you to the front type of thing? Or like, how did they, I don't know.
Yeah.
Ta-da! Like, so it
was a school assembly. There was a bunch of other performers. And then at the end, they were announcing awards. And yes, I had to go up there. I was very nervous. Honestly, I did not expect to get it. I was like, oh, okay, well, it might be me. It might not be me. And then when I heard my name, I was kind of like, did they just say my name?
Yeah.
So that's how I found out.
Man, that is really awesome. And what I like about what I'm hearing from you with like ScholarMatch is that you're receiving this financial support, but also all of these wraparound services. So Shay, I think this would be a good time for us to talk a little bit about once a student decides they want to go to college, what is the process of a typical student through the ScholarMatch program? Are there stages?
Yeah. So when students are in high school, their junior and senior year, most any student can be a part of the Destined for College program. They'll be matched one-on-one with a volunteer career coach, which will help begin the student to prepare for the college application process and go through the college-ready milestones. And then after that, students have the option to apply to the Scholars program. It is an additional application, but that's when you get the additional support once you're in college. So they'll be matched with a college advisor like myself, and then they'll have the opportunity to be involved in workshops and have that one-on-one support, and then also go into the part where they're working with the volunteer career coach to really explore careers and be ready once they graduate to find a career and a job.
Awesome. Okay, that's a really good breakdown. And so for the Scholars program, that application also comes or could come with funding as well.
Correct. Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, there's targeted financial support helping specifically with emergency funding usually.
Awesome. Man, this is really good just to see this whole slide here about the different options in the process. And so definitely, I feel like I come in contact with a lot of students that are just like, I don't know where to start for college. And it's like, you need to sign up for College Access Destined for College program because it's open, and you're going to get help through the application process. So, Cely, how did ScholarMatch help you when selecting schools to apply for?
So the first step was to meet my coach, and that's when I met Marisela. She made me feel comfortable to ask her questions about the college applications and how to write my personal statements. So to have someone to turn to and be able to ask those questions was very good for me because I was scared. I didn't want to mess up. I wanted to make sure everything was thorough and accurate. And yeah, I was able to ask her questions whenever I needed it.
Awesome. And did you ask her things about, like, I know sometimes for students it's really stressful about the FAFSA and things like that. Was she helpful with that too as well? Or
Yeah, she was very helpful about that. I think that was the longest part for me because I was very scared of getting in trouble with the school and with FAFSA. So I had a lot of questions and she was very eager to answer them, even though like I stopped at every question and I asked her to break it down. So she was very helpful.
yeah, no, not only does she seem really helpful, she seems really kind, like it's like, oh, not a bother to ask me
Yeah.
as many questions as you're going through the process. And man, that's really good info. Okay, so Shay, now I want you to come in and share with us like one practical piece of advice that you would have for students that are currently applying to college that you think would help them be successful in this phase. Because I think applying for college can get pretty stressful.
Absolutely can be very stressful and intimidating and confusing as well. So yeah, I have a couple pieces of advice. First is to check out the college ready milestones that ScholarMatch has. It's a free resource for anyone. If you check out the website, it has a step-by-step breakdown of how do I apply, what do I do next. So even if you don't have a Maricela, who is amazing, by the way, you can still utilize that resource. And then another piece of advice I have is that the sticker price for a school likely will not be the actual price that you pay. So even if something looks way out of your comfort zone price-wise, don't let that deter you from seeing if it's a good fit and if there are other resources available to help make that price doable.
Did you feel that way too, Cely?
Yes, I was very scared. They always post their estimated amount of money that it costs per year. And I was like, wow, I've never seen that before. And I don't know if I can do this.
Yeah. It's like, it feels like $1 million, So yeah, I want to come back to you, Cely. Can you talk a little bit about your advice that you would have for students that are going through this process?
Yeah, so my piece of advice would be that if you're slightly interested in college, you have a hunch or something like that, is to go to your school and see what resources they have to offer first. More than likely, they'll have something or at least something to point you in the right direction. For me, that was the college room. That's where I got information on, okay, what scholarships can I apply to or what programs can I join so that I can get more exposure to the college life. As I mentioned before, JCYC Upward Bound was able to take me on a couple of tours to Southern California, and I was able to learn more about these schools. Even the schools in my local area like USF and SF State, I was able to learn what kind of programs they have to offer and do I see myself here? What do I like about this campus? What do I don't like about this campus? Because students have to keep in mind that they're going to be there for 4 years or maybe more. I was at SDSU for 5 years. So that's really important to figure out before committing to a school as well.
Yeah, and that program, that College Bound program seems really interesting, and our students might want to check it out as well because they took you on a tour for how many days was it to explore?
So it was 3 days. And we were able to tour schools in UC Santa Cruz, UCLA. So it's kind of like we were making stops along the way. And we didn't stay there for like too long, but they were pretty short tours. But it was enough to be more than just a Google search. I was able to see what it was like, what it felt like.
Yeah, no, I think that's key because a lot of times with students, you're living up in your mind like, oh, I think it's going to be like that. But once you step foot on that campus, you're like, oh, yes. This is a place I can see myself, or, oh, no. This is not the place I want to be. I'm ready to go now. One of the barriers I know our students listening face also is how difficult it can be to write the college application essay. So we have, one barrier of just like, can I even go to college? And then which college do I apply to? But then the other barrier is the college application essay. So I want to spend a little bit of time talking about that. So what practical advice do you guys have on the scholarship essay? And this, again, is a question for both of you.
My first piece of advice is just get as much support as possible. Ask your teachers, ask mentors, ask advisors to read drafts and give feedback, and really utilize that feedback and keep rewriting and editing as much as you can. I'd also check out, looping back to ScholarMatch's College Ready Milestones. Number 5 is draft and revise college essays. So check that out. There's a bunch of resources there. And we also recommend the College Essay Guy. He has lots of support with, there's webinars, he has a YouTube channel, there's a blog, there's a podcast, there's an application hub that has examples. There's so many resources there that are free that are great for students to utilize.
Man, and do you find that, I don't know, how do you help students that might feel a little bit nervous reaching out to like a teacher to look at their draft essay or something like that? Like, any advice that you give to people that might feel like, I want to, but I'm nervous to go ask? Like, I don't know. Any thoughts you have on that?
Absolutely. I talk to students about that all the time. Getting support from professors is terrifying, especially at first, and this is not that different. My first suggestion would be start with someone that feels safe and accessible. If you have a favorite teacher, if you have someone that feels like they're a safe space to just get support or advice, I would start there and see if they have suggestions for other people that might be a good resource as well.
Yeah, that's such a good piece of advice. Yeah, instead of you having to come up with all the names, you go to the safe person and then they could say, hey, I know this other person that might be able to help you as well. That's really good advice. So, Cely, what practical advice for you would you say that's helpful for students that are trying to write that college application essay? What are your thoughts on that?
So first, don't be scared. I was definitely scared at first, but with the help of ScholarMatch and other people around me, I was able to figure out what I was going to write about. There are a bunch of topics that you can write about. Some students pick a random inanimate object to talk about, and that's totally okay if you want to approach your essays that way. I personally was looking for inspiration, and I found that with my mom's story. She's my number one inspiration. I love her, and I was very passionate about that topic. And despite that, I had to write several drafts. I had multiple people revise it because even though I was passionate, I had to make sure it was well written and it answered their question.
Yes. That was a really great choice because after all of that applying, right, you finally got in, which I find so exciting. And I always love seeing like when people get in, especially around this time of year, people are like opening emails and stuff and or pieces of mail and just shouting. They're like, oh my God, I got in. So can you talk to our audience about what you did once you got your college acceptance too? So you can let us know where you got into. Who did you tell first and how did you find out?
So I first told my mom because she is my number one supporter and she also helped me a lot through this journey. So yeah, I called her and I was like, oh my God, I got into SDSU. She was a bit hesitant because she was like, oh, that's super far. And I'm sure she thought I was going to stay local because that was her dream for me, to stay local. And she was super excited. She was like, oh, I'll run over and grab us lunch and you can have lunch with me on campus. And that made me very sad. But ultimately, I knew that I wanted to branch out a little bit more and explore new things, find new things about myself and what the world has to offer. So that's when I decided to commit to SDSU. I was very nervous, but I was like, well, if it doesn't work out, I can always come back.
Yeah. Okay. So for those that don't know, what does SDSU stand for?
SDSU stands for San Diego State University.
Okay, awesome. San Diego State University. And 6 years later, right, you're still living in San Diego. And I'm assuming your mom comes and visits you, right?
Definitely, yeah.
So what were the key steps that you would say helped you get from accepting the offer, right, to being on campus as an official college student? How did Shay, perhaps, like, as your college advisor, help you make that transition? Because I know there are so many things that can get students mixed up from like going from, yay, I got accepted, right, to I'm actually enrolled and attending classes. So can you talk a little bit to us about that?
I would say just talking to my coaches like Shay helped a lot because I was able to address my concerns with them. And it was very scary. So I'm just like, oh, I'm nervous or I'm not sure about this. But having someone to kind of back me up, like, oh, don't worry, like, or share their own experience with me was very helpful to adjusting to college life because I had several hiccups throughout my college journey. It wasn't smooth at all. It's a lot different from getting accepted, like you said, to actually being there. You're actually taking classes now. They're a lot harder than high school classes. You have to adjust to a new culture. And it's very different living in San Francisco than in San Diego. People are different, a new environment. So it takes a lot of adjusting. And Shay and other coaches were there to kind of help me navigate through my uncertainties.
That is really, really nice to hear and just know that you're getting that support from ScholarMatch. And so when you got accepted into your university, was that the only one you got accepted into or were there a few? And if there were a few, like how did you decide like, hey, this is the one I'm going to do?
There were a few. I got accepted to San Francisco State as well. And I was kind of going back and forth like, okay, do I stay close to home or do I commit to San Diego State? What kind of determined that was just, again, wanting to explore and wanting to challenge myself because it's a challenge to move away from home and not know anyone is very hard. And I wanted to put myself through that and, okay, well, what do I have to learn? And from hearing other students' experiences, they were like, it's not that bad. It's kind of bad at first, but then you get used to your environment. And those stories motivated me and made me feel like I can do it too.
Yeah. No, that makes me, like I said, it makes me super happy to know you had people around you to help you make those really critical decisions, like where you go to college is really important. And so Shay, like when you're coaching students through this process that Cely just talked about with us, what else do you think they should consider to help them make it to the day one student sitting in that college classroom and, being on campus?
So a big piece of advice I suggest is getting in your FAFSA or your state aid application in early before the priority deadline, because some states do give aid first come, first serve. So once you submit all of your college applications, definitely do that and also apply for scholarships. You can continue to apply, sometimes even up to through when you start school as well. It's also worth looking for smaller local scholarships. You can check out your newspaper, libraries, other civic organizations to try to find scholarships that have smaller application pools.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't even know law firms have scholarships, and you don't have to be a law student, right? Or going into law to receive those. And a lot of banks have that as well. So local, I think, is definitely better. And so then once you're on campus, what advice would you have for students to, be successful that day one on campus?
Yeah, I would definitely look into every resource you can possibly find on campus. There can be first-generation centers that can be hugely helpful and supportive. There's also options for fee waivers, for fees for classes, lending libraries, laptop programs. There's so many ways to really get support and also try to find other first-gen students who really make you feel like you have a community there as well.
Yeah. And where do you find these free resources? Is it the ScholarMatch have these are places that you should look towards for resources, or is there a go-to place that you tell people to check out once they hit campus?
Every campus is different. So there isn't one central hub for resources, but
free resources here.
I know, I wish. But definitely, that's part of what your advisor is for as well, is looking on your campus and trying to find resources on your specific campus. Also, your RA is also a great person to ask too. Yeah, I always recommend that to students because they're also students and they've also been through it recently. And yeah, like I said before, the first generation center is a great place to go as well.
Yeah, that's really good. I never thought about the RA and then going to the advisor quickly, not waiting until okay, I have all my classes, go. day one if you can, to see what's offered. Because like you said about the FAFSA, like it's first come, first serve for some of these other programs too. They're not the only one that say first come, first serve. So you want to get in and get your resources quickly. So what I've also found about ScholarMatch, right, is the ability to get students from high school to graduation, and in your case, Cely, a job, right? But you guys are able to do this with an 85% success rate, which is really unheard of. So first of all, congratulations. That's amazing. But a report I read from Education Advisory Board talks about like 33% of first-generation college students drop out within 3 years, compared to only 14% of continuing generation students. And so before we get into your thoughts on why, right, Cely, can you share with us if that statistic, right, that 33% of first-gen students dropping out within the first 3 years, do you resonate with that? And if yes, like, how did you personally go through your time in college, and maybe like how did ScholarMatch help you get through those difficult times?
So I do resonate a lot with that because being there, I met a lot of people my freshman year. And then by the second year, some of them weren't there anymore. They had dropped out. So it was a little bit discouraging because some of these people, I was like, oh my God, we got this. We're going to graduate together in 4 years. And then it was really sad to not see them there. Even I myself, I was on academic probation my first semester of college. And that discouraged me a lot. I felt like, oh my God, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to disappoint ScholarMatch and my family. And I felt sad because that had never happened to me in high school. And for that to happen to me in college now made me a little bit not confident in my ability to be a student there. But to overcome that, I had ScholarMatch helping me, encouraging me and kind of guiding me through what that process looks like. And I wasn't not familiar with that. I've heard of other people falling on academic probation as well, and they graduated. So there was a light at the end of the tunnel. I was like, okay, I'm here stuck in this situation, but there have been people here as well, and they already graduated. They've moved on with their life, so it's not the end of the world. And ScholarMatch helped me get out of it by increasing my check-in times. So normally we would check in about 3 times a semester, but this time I would check in a lot more frequently. Okay, how am I doing? Do I need help with my homework? How do I reach out to this professor so that they can help me a little bit more? So that kind of stuff. And that was really helpful and got me out of academic probation by the second semester.
Yeah, and this is the help that you receive from ScholarMatch is something that not everybody can receive from their parents, right? Or their family, because it's really like, okay, I know what you're going through. We got to increase our checks, number one. And then I'm going to send you out on tasks that I know if you complete, it's going to get you over that hump. And then, like you said, like you were able to see other students that were successful. Like, hey, I was in this spot too, but if you do these things, it's going to help you get over it. Was there a specific thing that helped you, kind of something that clicked that you felt maybe didn't click before, and that's kind of why you got an academic probation? Like, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
It was definitely my study habits. I felt like I was able to cruise in high school, like, oh, I did my homework and I don't have to do anything else. But in college, that's completely different. You have to find a method that works for you to grasp the information. And unfortunately, I didn't have that. I wasn't sure how to study, how to make sure I was understanding the material. But then I decided to look into what resources my campus had, and I was going to the math tutoring center and talking to professors during their office hours, like, what do I need to do to get out of where I am right now? Because my school's policy was that if you're on academic probation the next year, you're going to lose your financial aid. And I was devastated to hear that. I did not want that to happen to me at all.
That's so stressful.
Yeah, it was very stressful. So I was like, I need to lock in. I need to find a way to get out of this because this is not me. Like, I care about school. I want to be a good student. So I was pretty much like going everywhere to find a piece of information or find a study habit that would help me get there.
Yeah, and I wanna pause and talk a little bit about study habits, right? Study methods, because I think a lot of students do find themselves in that position. They're like, oh, I just study. And then they get to college, it's like, oh no, you don't know how to study. So like, What study methods? Talk about like, what are they? Where did you go to find out about them in case our students that are listening want to look up that type of stuff now to be prepared?
So every CSU that, to my knowledge, has EOP, which is a program for first-gen college students. So I went there as well, and they had workshops as well, how to study, or do you need a mentor, or do you need a tutor? And one of their workshops was how to take like notes, and I did one of those, and that helped me a lot. I was able to kind of figure out what worked for me and what didn't work for me. And I can't just take notes. I need to like rewrite my notes. I need to do flashcards. I need to rewatch lectures. And that's how I figured out, okay, this is what's working for me. This is how I learn best. So I think there are a lot of resources that colleges have to help first-gen students how to kind of navigate classes.
Yeah, no, that's really, really interesting. And I know a concept that a lot of students are not introduced to until later. So how to study, reading your notes, writing again, listening to lectures. If you're audio, visual learner, what type of learner are you? So thank you so much, Cely, for sharing that. And Shay, I want to come and ask you the same question. We're talking about challenges that students might face in college, and 33% not staying in the first 3 years. So what are your thoughts on that as, someone that works with students all the time in ScholarMatch?
Yeah, so going off of what Cely said, not only is college so different from high school, but every single class is going to be different as well. And every single professor is going to have different expectations and different goals for what you're going to learn and how you're going to learn it. So really taking the time to figure out each class and what's going to make you successful in each class is something that you're going to have to relearn every single quarter or semester. So, and I think one of the things that really, I think ScholarMatch does really well that helps prevent students from not being able to continue with school is that one-on-one support. I meet with students every week about what can I do to be more successful. I'm having a really hard time in this class. What are the resources available? What can I do to do better? So I love that we're able to provide that one-on-one support. And I also think that ScholarMatch is really great at the financial support as well. It does make a difference. We help students with emergencies all the time. It can be anything from books to food to housing, anything that's going to help students kind of persist in school.
Yeah, and that's why you guys have that 80% graduation rate, right? You don't just leave students in the dust, right? And when things are tough, you're in there with them. Like, come on, you can do it. You can do it. I mean, you can't like go and take their classes, right? But you're like, you need to like try this or look into that, please, so that you could be successful. And so in college, you always hear about needing to land jobs, right? So how does ScholarMatch help scholars prepare for a career? Do they do like career exploration or prep or workshops or things like that? Because we're in college, right? Because we want to land an amazing career, but also be paid well as well. So what does ScholarMatch do to help out with that?
Yeah, absolutely. We have lots of workshops. We have workshops on networking and writing your resume and updating your LinkedIn and where to go to find internships. We always encourage students to have internships while they're in school so that not only are they getting work experience, but they're finding out more about what they actually want to do. I always say nothing is a waste of time because oftentimes students are, well, I want to do this and I want to do this and I want to do that. And I say, try it. You're not going to figure out what you really want to do until you try it. So I love that we're able to provide workshops that really help students in that direction. We also have career mentoring. So
interesting.
Yeah, like I believe I mentioned before, students are paired with a volunteer career coach. They have that one-on-one relationship with someone who's in a field that they're interested in, and they're able to learn more from them and sometimes even get connected with internships or having coffee chats, things like that. We also have a career directory, which has over 200 volunteers in it, and students are able to reach out to people in fields that they're interested in I always think it's a little bit less intimidating than just like cold calling someone or reaching out to a complete stranger on LinkedIn. These are people that really want to support students and they want to share about what they do.
Yeah, and there is that fear there usually when it's like, okay, you need to go on LinkedIn, let's say, and send out this message. You're like, okay, I don't know if this person's going to respond. But you're like, no, we have this cadre of people that like, if you send them a message, they're going to, well, the probability is that higher probability that they will respond. And so that's just really, I just love it. Like all the things that you guys are doing. And so Cely, do you have any practical tips on what you did to help you land a job by graduation? Any thoughts you have on that?
I do. So I actually started my job a little bit early. I did an EMT course and I got my EMT license. So I've been working full-time as an EMT in San Diego.
Congrats.
Thank you. But some tips I have is to kind of like, again, use the resources that are there to help you. ScholarMatch had a resume workshop and had an interview. And that was really helpful because sometimes interviews can be very nerve-wracking. You don't know how to make your resume perfect. Not that it has to be perfect, but, there are certain guidelines and requirements, to impress whoever you're trying to work for. So I think that was very helpful for me. I was able to get an idea of, what it's going to be like when I'm interviewing for my dream employer. JCYC Upward Bound also was able to teach me about a few of other important stuff like writing an email. How do you write an email? An email that sounds professional and not use slang words because, it's a professional email. So you have to learn how to write that appropriately.
Yeah, no LOL and
yeah.
And then can you talk a little bit about, did you do any, I know on campuses there are a lot of job fairs. Did you go to any of those or like anything else you did?
Yeah, so there are a couple of job fairs that are available through most schools and they're tailored to majors. And I was able to attend a couple related to the healthcare field and tech. You don't have to be a certain major. You can just go to them and kind of explore your options. And there are a bunch of people there that have hiring flyers, which is really important. So you can, you have a number or you have an email to reach out to in case you want to go ahead and apply to that specific company or program.
Yeah. And I think our audience also doesn't know fully that, like you kind of alluded to it, maybe you already said it. You probably already said it, but like you graduated and had a job at the same time, but then you also started applying to graduate school. So like, how did that happen? Because now, Cely, you're over here like got all these degrees, jobs, degrees, saving lives. So like, yeah, how did that happen for graduate school and ScholarMatch? How did they help you with that?
So I was kind of all over the place. There's a lot of things that I'm interested in and a lot of things I want to explore and see what it's like. At first, I wanted to go to nursing school. And I was like, okay, well, how do I get hours? And that's how I ended up getting my EMT license. And now that I'm doing the job, I'm like, maybe I'm not so interested in that anymore. I want to do something else. So I was 100% sure I didn't want to go to grad school. Because I was, again, scared. It's a whole nother process. Thankfully, I had Shay, and I talked to them about it and addressed my concerns to them. And I was like, I don't know. I was kind of on the fence. Do I go? Do I not go? And then I decided to go. I was like, I've learned a lot from ScholarMatch. They set me up. Like, I know how to use my resources. I know who to reach out to, and I can do it. I know I can do it. I've learned money-saving techniques from different workshops. It's possible. So I went ahead and applied. So now I'm getting a master's degree in emergency management. I like the management aspect of what I do now since I work with law enforcement. I work with the fire personnel. So it's all a bunch of different factors that come together. And I'm interested in that. So yeah, that's how I ended up applying to grad school. I got in. And I'm graduating in May.
Wow. Congratulations. I'm clapping for you. I know people in our audience are clapping as well. And so all of these workshops, that's what I keep hearing. Like ScholarMatch has all these amazing workshops that are like life-changing. You go to one, you're like, oh, okay, I need to switch it up. So how did you handle the cost of graduate school? Did any of the workshops that ScholarMatch that you went to helped you with that as well? Or, because I know grad school is expensive.
So I didn't go to a workshop, but I have Shay, and
Yeah.
I was very
She is the
nervous.
workshop.
I was very nervous. I talked to Shay about, I don't know if I could do this. Or I even asked them about their experience with grad school. And that's how I kind of like came to a conclusion that, okay, well, it's going to be hard. It's expensive, but I want to learn more. I want to be the first in my family to have a master's degree. And yeah, that's kind of how I was like, okay, I'm going to budget. I'm going to do this. I'm not going to spend on this thing anymore. But yeah, my program is 24 grand. And so far with my budgeting, I was able to pay off half of it already.
What?
So now I have
another hand clap.
So now I have 12,000 more to go. It's going to be hard. I've had to sacrifice a couple of things, but I love learning, and it's been a great experience so far. I just started my first class last week, and it's very hard. I'm kind of stressed out because it's going to be a challenge. I have a major project that I have to complete before I graduate, but I know I can do it. It's a great experience, and I feel blessed to keep my education going.
Yes. No, you're like the poster child for all of these really amazing things. Like, you kept it going and you learned so much. And so as we start to land the plane, we've learned so much about what ScholarMatch does and how it helps. And then we've learned about college tips and what to do to be successful in college. I want to start this part of landing the plane talking about graduation day, right? Because that is ScholarMatch's specialty. I mean, like 85% of the students are graduating. So what I want to hear is like, how was it for you graduating, right? Did you have a core memory from that day when you graduated from San Diego State University in 2024? What made it special? Just talk to us about that.
What made it special to me was overcoming all the challenges I faced throughout those years. I definitely, I had ups and downs. I felt like I couldn't do it. I even got to the point where maybe I should also drop out. Maybe this isn't for me. And I was very proud of myself the day of graduation. I couldn't believe it was happening to me. I'm like, is this real life? Like, am I really here? And a core memory was me being in the center and surrounded by families. And I was able to spot my parents. And we were like smiling at each other. I was waving at them. And I felt proud. I felt accomplished because I made my parents proud. It was not an easy thing to do. Like I said, I went through a lot, and it was very happy for me. I couldn't believe it, but I was like, I did that. Like, I overcame. I used my resources, and I had ScholarMatch, most importantly. I've said this before. ScholarMatch is like an older sibling to me, guiding me and making me feel comfortable and not making me feel terrible about different things I went through, like academic probation. It's kind of like, everything's going to be okay, And I hope that first-gen college students out there have someone like ScholarMatch, because they're an amazing program, and I don't think I could have graduated without ScholarMatch, honestly. They helped me with class, but also financially. There were times where I felt like I couldn't pay rent, and ScholarMatch was there to take that stress off of me and focus on school. So that's very important to me.
Yeah. And while you were going through your time in college, was there something you kept repeating to yourself, like over and over again, to help you get through colleges?
I guess just like, keep pushing through. You got this. That's mainly what makes me finish my workouts sometimes. Like, just keep pushing. You got this. 1 more minute, 2 more minutes, or keep studying. 20 more minutes. You got it. You can do it. So that's what I kept telling myself throughout those years.
Yeah. Yeah. I wish that would work for me during my workouts. Keep pushing. I'm just like, no. I'll keep sitting. But I'm glad. And Shay, Shay, I think this would be a good time for you to come and talk to our listeners that are like, okay, man, ScholarMatch sounds amazing. I want to sign up. What do I do? How do I sign up? Tell it to me. Like, how do we sign up? what's available for students in California? What's available nationwide? Just break it down for us.
Yeah, definitely check out our website. High school students are always paired with a coach, so it's definitely worth applying and being paired with someone that will help with this process. And then from there, you can also apply to the Scholars Program and be paired with someone like me. But definitely check out the website and apply when the applications open this spring.
Okay, so is it like a rolling application, or is it once a year?
It is once a year in the spring. Yep.
Okay, once a year in the spring. And it's open for everyone in California or everyone nationwide, both programs, or just...
Yeah, it's open nationwide. So definitely, if you're interested, do apply.
Okay, awesome. And Cely, can you share why a first-gen college student should apply to ScholarMatch, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think they should apply because ScholarMatch is an amazing program. They have amazing coaches that care about you and want to see you succeed academically, but also navigating the challenges of that life brings. And if you feel like you're drowning, ScholarMatch won't let you drown.
Yes, that is a key. That is amazing. And Shay and Cely, thank you so much for coming on the show. We want everybody to get out there and check out ScholarMatch. You guys are doing amazing work helping students, first-gen students, be able to graduate, to achieve a dream that seems so impossible when you first start. And you're like, nope, come with us. We will show you. We will take you there. So you guys both have such beautiful spirits, and it has been a true joy to introduce ScholarMatch and your journeys to the New College Perspective audience. And if you're listening and want to volunteer for this wonderful organization, because I know we've heard a lot about all the different ways that they have coaches and mentors, the application for that will most likely open up around March, April timeframe. Guys, go on the website and get you the help that you actually need to be able to succeed as a first-gen college student. I'll see you guys on the next episode. Bye.